everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the Quick Question Podcast. My name is Gabe Ryan, here with my co-host Matt Shafty on Zoom. And a special guest today in studio, we have Michael Daley, Cowboys fan aficionado, Wisconsin Badger. Thank you for being here, Michael. Pleasure to have you.
Gabe. Thank you for having me.
Matt, how are you doing in Kalamazoo?
Oh, I had a fantastic weekend. The Spartans pulled an upset. I didn't think it was an upset, but they won. The Lions won. I didn't think that was an upset either, but you know, the media can say what they want, and the Red Wings have won two in a row. Yeah.
It's on top.
I don't know who's more excited, you or your dogs.
I can't really tell them to stop barking. They're just gonna bark more if I yell. So
they're not human, so it's kind of hard to really get that home. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us for episode 9. Excited to be here today. We're going to talk a little NFL. We're going to talk some World Cup soccer, a little bit more college basketball, as this is the first week of games. And then at the end, we're going to do pick predictions, as well as some rapid fire questions. We're going to bring that back from the first couple of weeks. But to start out, we're going to do who we think are the biggest surprise teams in the NFL. This could be positive. This could be negative. Just depending on the context. So, Michael Daley, do you want to lead us off? Who are your two teams that have surprised you so far?
Two big surprise teams for me so far. On the positive side would have to be the Seattle Seahawks. I had this team as a 2-3 win team going into the season. I thought Drew Lock was going to be quarterback, but Geno Smith has stepped in and he is balled. I would thought this was going to be a year where Pete Carroll might end up jobless. He has shown that he's one of the top coaches in the NFL. He might be the favorite for coach of the year right now. Geno is playing like a top 10 quarterback, and the Seahawks are just balling. And Matt's boy Kenneth Walker is going off.
Man crush.
I mean, 6-3, it's insane. And I think on the negative side, I would go for the Colts. This is a team that most people had picked to win the AFC South. I certainly had them picked to win the AFC South. I thought Matt Ryan still had something in him, but clearly it shows that this strategy of trading for these veteran quarterbacks on these 1-year deals, they're on this is their 6th quarterback in 5 years now. Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, these guys aren't turning out, and they need to draft and develop. And they just fired their coach. They hired Jeff Saturday with no coaching experience. He's working in the media, and they bring him in. If you had told me they had new OC, new quarterback, new coach 9 weeks into the season, I would not have believed you.
Matt, how would you feel if Dan Orlovsky took Dan Campbell's spot?
I wouldn't like it.
You wouldn't like it?
No, I love Dan Campbell. Hey man, big win this weekend, man.
Well, that is a good point, because I mean, you would think at least last year, Carson Wentz obviously struggled since he got hurt with the Eagles.
Yeah.
But you would have thought he would have done better last year. You would have thought Matt Ryan, even though he's old, he's a veteran quarterback, you thought he would have done something. So
it's not just Matt. You look at this is the highest paid O-line in the league.
Yeah.
And it has not played like it whatsoever. It has looked bottom 5 O-line. Jonathan Taylor does not have room to run. Obviously my Wisconsin boy, best running back in the league in my opinion. And it's just he's not getting the blocks that he was last year.
Yeah.
And they're stacking the box because they know the quarterbacks can't throw. Pittman's not being allowed to shine. This is a very disappointing season for them.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Matt, who are your two teams?
So my surprise team, I think we all knew the Vikings were going to be better, but Kevin O'Connell has done a great job coaching this team to a 7-1 record. They're doing so well. Cousins is playing well. Dalvin and Alexander Madison, good duo, 1-2 punch. And then, of course, you got Justin Jefferson. I believe he is the best all-around receiver in the league right now. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry about Jamar Chase, but he's up there.
I mean, up there. Jefferson's definitely a very good wide receiver.
Matt. I agree.
Yep. Defense has shined for them. Other than that Eagles game, and they gave up, 21 points to the Lions in the first half. But other than that, they've done a fairly good job defensively. Greg Joseph's kicked pretty well. They've done a really solid all around job, and they're atop of the NFC mid. And
they got some tests coming up though. They got at Buffalo, and then they got home against Dallas. We'll see how much of a legitimate contender they are after those two games. Those are two top contenders.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say my disappointing team really, I'd go either Packers or Rams, but I'll go Rams because I didn't want to overreact in the beginning of the year saying the Rams and the Bengals, Super Bowl hangover. And the Bengals have bounced back. The Rams have not. The defense has just they haven't played to their standards. They're still one of the best defenses in the NFL. They have not played to their standards. They're they've attacked Jalen Ramsey, right? I don't really know how. I can't really give you a reason, but Ramsey has been cooked, especially by Stephon Diggs. Diggs did a really good job against him. Yeah. The offense has not produced whatsoever. And I guess missing Odell might be a reason to that. They had Van Jefferson out for a while, and he had 5 targets last game, but no catches. Yeah. So huge difference by Van Jefferson. They haven't, the run game's been horrible. They lost some O linemen, and that's really not paying off. It hasn't benefited them at all. Yeah. And, just you'd think a team at that caliber with that kind of head coach, they got to do a little better. And really they haven't. There's still one more half to this NFL season to go. Maybe they can turn it around. But
it's a wide open division for sure.
Yeah. It is. It definitely is. And the Seahawks are atop of that division.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who would have thought?
For them.
No one.
Pete Carroll.
Yeah, I think that Stafford is playing worse than Jared Goff ever did for the Rams.
Oh, yeah.
He is getting no blocking whatsoever. I mean, that's the true definition of Super Bowl hangover. You look at him, 42 touchdowns last season and amazing postseason. This year, it's just like you watch him, he's not the same player.
What happened?
It's nothing he looked like in Detroit. It looks like he doesn't have that drive anymore. So he's got the ring, he's bounced.
Yeah. All right. So my two teams, at least on the positive side, I'm gonna bunch two teams together. New York football is on an all-time high right now. Mm-hmm. New York football has been really bad for a while. The New York Jets and the Giants are both 5-2. The Jets coming off a huge win against the Buffalo Bills at MetLife, which it's weird saying these sentences. Yeah. The Jets are 5-2. The Jets
6-3
or 6-3.
Yeah,
my bad.
Yeah.
But the Jets beating the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen, with Stephon Diggs, with that offense and defense. I think it's a testament to what Robert Saleh's done. They brought in some players. Sauce Gardner, cornerback, has been absolutely lights out. The play that he made at the end of the game to lock the game up was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
It was a great throw by Allen, but just perfect coverage and knocked the ball away, deflected it to win. The Giants are, again, still finding ways to win. Their quarterback situation isn't the greatest, but, I mean, if you still find ways to win, they beat the Packers.
Yep.
The Jets beat the Packers. Like, New York football is beating some dynasty teams that are usually really good. And then on the negative side, I'm going to stay close to home. I'm kind of disappointed with the Bengals this year, and they're 5-4, which, I mean, in a normal year, I think I wouldn't be as disappointed, but with especially the offense that they have, I think they've really underperformed, especially the first few weeks of the season. You've seen glimpses of them really kicking it into the gear. Last week against the Carolina Panthers, Joe Mixon goes for 5 touchdowns. Yep. And then a couple weeks before that, Joe Burrow goes absolutely crazy against the Falcons. So they have spurts where they go, but those are teams that you should beat. Those are teams that you should dominate. They don't have good rosters. They don't have good coaches in place right now. But the teams that, even if they're more competitive, that you should beat, the Bengals don't have a division win yet.
Nope.
0-3 in the division. And to be honest, the division isn't that strong this year. I think the hopes were a little bit higher at the start of the season. But just pretty inexcusable losses. And now their season really ramps up. They have bye week this week, but next week they go and play the Steelers at Pittsburgh. Then they have the Buccaneers, the Bills, Chiefs, Titans. They have a bunch of teams that are out for blood, really high in their division, and it's not going to be easy. So if they're anticipating making the playoffs again, which with that roster not making the playoffs is kind of a disappointment. Yeah. And I'm not going to be the guy that's going to make super high expectations every year for the Bengals just because of one run. But at least with the generational talent that you have on that team, I think you should be performing a little bit better.
Yeah. I think the Bengals are showing a little bit of their true colors so far this year.
I would agree with that.
I think that last year they made the Super Bowl. They got hot in January. They got hot in December. But at their core, they were a 10-7 team who did not get hurt and had a 4th place schedule. And now you're seeing this year obviously it's hard to get lucky 2 years in a row with injuries. And that Browns Monday night game, you see Owuzie go down, my former boy, one of the best man-to-man cover corners in the league. You see Trey Hendrickson go down, and Jamar Chase wasn't playing. That's possibly 3 of the 4 Bengals' best players.
Oh, for sure.
And it was an absolute demolition.
Yeah. Injuries definitely haven't helped them this year. But also their offensive line still hasn't been good. It wasn't good last year. Lyle Collins hasn't played well.
He's terrible.
He's not.
I can vouch. He is terrible. There's a reason he got cut, and it was not. We had $20 million left in salary cap after cutting him, and he was only $10 million. He just simply was outplayed by our backup right tackle, and then you guys kind of handed him a fat contract because you saw, his 2018 form. I think he's shown that was probably one of the worst contracts of the offseason. But I still think I'm very shocked at the way the Bengals defense has been playing, and still 5-4 with that schedule is still impressive. And I think you're in it in that division. You're in it in the wild card race too. Yeah. I think you just gotta capitalize, get Jamar back soon.
For the most part, the defense has been the best part of the team, and that's not. I don't think that should shock anybody by saying that. Like the offense has been up and down and up and down. First few weeks it was play calling, who's calling the plays, and whoever it is, they should stop.
Yeah,
because they're terrible. And like when you have Joe Burrow not playing cocky with a little chip on his shoulder, that's when you know things are going south.
Yeah,
because he energizes everybody else. Now, I think Chase and Higgins and Boyd bail him out sometimes.
Absolutely,
just like every quarterback. But when you have the leader in the locker room that's playing with that edge, that's infectious. They played with that last year. They took what they wanted. They didn't have to do check downs every play and run the ball for 1 yard, and just infuriating football.
And let's give Trey Hendrickson his flowers too. I mean, he's one of the best edge rushers in the league.
Yeah, Sam Hubbard and Hendrickson together are awesome to watch. They showed that in the postseason last year, and Hendrickson has really balled out. Just hopefully he can stay healthy.
So, I like that schedule to end the season is absolutely brutal.
Yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah,
and I think if you're the Bengals going into the season, you don't want to have, you don't want it to be up in the air as to if you make the playoffs, and you definitely don't want it to come down to the last few weeks of the season. You want to take care of business early. They had some cupcake games on the schedule that got away from them. They've lost to some teams. They played a lot of backup quarterbacks. The only legit quarterback they've played, sorry, Baker Mayfield, is Lamar Jackson. And they lost on primetime football. Now, it's in Baltimore. It's a tough place to play, but still, that's a game that they should have won. If you watch,
Brissett looked pretty legit against you guys. Not gonna lie.
Nick Chubb looked really good, and that kind of opened everything else. But that's all I have to say about the Bengals before I get too furious.
Well, I'd like to touch on the Jets, and you're saying Robert Saleh doing a great job. Quinnen Williams deserves his flowers too. Hasn't been Pro yet, and now he's entering himself in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. I won't go that far because of my boy Micah, but and you know what he did to you.
Oh, yeah, I do.
You saw him plenty. But I think that Zach Wilson has been playing well. There's a few games where he's just made too many mistakes. That Patriots game was terrible. But this Jets team is legit. And this Jets team can make a wild card push, possibly a division push. Everyone's in that division race right now.
I need to know, when was the last time that all these New York teams made the playoffs?
It was a long time.
If I had to guess, I would tell you, I know the Jets haven't made the playoffs for over a decade. I would say 2009, 2010, one of those 2 years.
There was a stat a couple weeks, probably 3 weeks ago now, because it was when the Yankees and the Mets and Jets and Giants all played on the same day, and all 4 teams won on the same day, which was the first time since 2007 or something crazy.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good time. Well, obviously the Yankees season didn't, and the Mets. They kind of underperformed in the playoffs. But
did you see DeGrom? Apparently he might not come back.
Yeah, he opted out.
Yeah.
A lot of players have. Trey Turner, the Dodgers shortstop, put together a video, basically hype video, and he had John Hamm do the voiceover for it, and he sent it out to teams. And I saw it on Twitter. It's actually pretty cool.
I gotta check that out.
It's awesome. It's like a tribute video, basically, just to send out to all the teams. But Well, next, do you guys want to talk about World Cup soccer? Or are you guys done with football? Anything?
Yeah, I think we're good with football, so we can move on to the other football.
Sounds good.
El football.
Yes, sir.
El football. American football to girls football.
What?
I'm nothing. I'm kidding. So we're gonna talk about the World Cup a little bit. We're gonna break it down into 2 weeks, or 2 weeks, 2 segments, 2 weeks. Groups A to D today. Michael will talk about his predictions, kind of like a breakdown, and then an underrated team for all of you to pick in your fantasy leagues or to ride maybe.
Before we go on with today's podcast, I would like to give a shout out to Mr. Alan Mix and Bandwagon Fantasy Sports. We are not sponsored by Bandwagon in any capacity, but I did make a connection with Alan recently. Bandwagon Fantasy Sports is a team-based fantasy platform instead of a player-based platform. This minimizes the difficulty and maximizes efficiency. Bandwagon currently has fantasy options for the Premier League, MLS, NBA, NCAA football, NFL, MLB, and NHL. And they are also testing a World Cup option this year. Within the next 2 weeks, there will be leagues open. There is an open league for anyone to compete with the Bandwagon community, and private leagues for family and friends. Both formats are free. Members of leagues purchase their teams with a set budget. As time goes by, teams become more and less valuable, and you, as a manager, have the option to keep trusting your teams or to sell your teams and buy new ones. The manager with the most points wins. Michael and I are planning to make teams in the open league, and if we gather enough people, maybe even a private league. Gabe might, but he doesn't know much about soccer. But that's the beauty of Bandwagon. Anyone can play, and the skill gap is minimized. Again, thanks to Alan and Bandwagon Fantasy Sports.
Bandwagon.
All right.
Nice.
All right, let's roll. Let's start with Group A. Group A consists of Netherlands, Ecuador, Senegal, and Qatar. So 2 of these 4 teams will make it out of the group stage and advance into the round of 16. I'm really glad we're starting with Netherlands here. I think this is one of the most exciting teams to watch in the tournament. The name to watch will be Cody Gakpo. He's the best player in the world that nobody knows about. He has 30 goals and assists so far this season for PSV in the Dutch league. And he plays in the Europa League with PSV, but no one's ever seen him play a big game. I've never sat down and watched him play 90. But he's done great for Netherlands in the UEFA Nations League. Mm-hmm. He's done great for PSV in the club level. He's 23 years old, and if he performs well here, you could see possibly a triple-figure deal for him to one of the top 6 clubs in Europe, in England. For Liverpool should really be eyeing him. They got a great back line. Van Dijk is coming back. They struggled with the Euro round of 16 exit 2 summers ago, and they didn't have Van Dijk, the best defender in the world. Mm-hmm. So this is a top 10 squad in the world for a reason, and I think they should cruise through this group easily. Qatar, it's host nation. There's other people going to be backing them, but they don't have too much going for them. Every single one of their players plays in Qatar.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know too much about them. I know they won the Asia Cup a couple years ago, but I don't expect this team to do too much. Maybe they just need a little host nation magic luck. Get the Qatar culture behind them, if that exists. Or maybe it's just oil money. But
yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
So I think this group is going to be between Ecuador and Senegal for the second spot. Senegal is a much higher ranked team. They have much better star players. Sadio Mane, now for Bayern Munich, Champions League winner for Liverpool, AFCON Player of the Year. Senegal's just coming off a AFCON Cup championship. They got Edouard Mendy, Champions League winner with Chelsea. They got Kalidou Koulibaly, who just joined Chelsea from Napoli. And they got Idrissa Gueye, who has balled out for PSG in recent years. This is a top squad. However, South American teams versus African teams in the World Cup, 20 wins, 5 draws, 3 losses. South American play style dominates the African play style. And this group is going to come down to the game versus Ecuador versus Senegal. And you're going to see Moises Caicedo and Estupinian from Brighton. Those are the 2 guys to look out for. They play together at the club level. They're playing together with Ecuador. This team is much lower ranked than Senegal, but they're not here because of a fluke. They're legit. It takes a lot of work to get out of the South American qualifying. You have to finish over countries like Uruguay. Uruguay qualified over them. You have to finish over countries like Colombia, Chile, Peru. Those are top teams that they earn their way here. And if I had to give my pick, I would pick Ecuador over Senegal.
Okay.
Yeah, you hit in every point. I was going to mention the record and say Ecuador is my underrated team too. But you know what?
Yeah.
You got it, man.
That we agree.
Yeah.
So Group B is the big group.
Oh,
United States of America, baby.
USA.
I'm excited. This group is full of surprises, top to bottom. This is any order could finish. Like this is not. There's no one great team. England's obviously the favorite, but they've struggled in the past. They've performed well at major tournaments recently, semifinals of the last World Cup, finals of the last Euro, but their manager is horrific. Gareth Southgate has no idea what he's doing, and you got to get guys like Phil Foden from Manchester City in the squad. Jude Bellingham, who's only 19 years old, plays for Borussia Dortmund. He is their best center mid. He needs to be playing, and I don't think he will be, which gives the Americans a chance on Black Friday. A great American holiday, one of the most underrated American holidays. I'm super stoked for that game. I think that we can show up then. Hopefully, we have a center mid called Weston McKennie, who plays for Juventus, and I believe he is one of our best players, possibly our best player, who is injured right now. So It's going to be key to working back. Hopefully, he's fit and ready to go.
Do you know what injury it is?
I believe it's some sort of leg injury, but he's had an interesting injury history. He broke his foot earlier this year too.
Sounds like Shafty. Sorry.
Getting hurt every time he plays. Yeah. But he's shown up big for us in games against Mexico before, and he is a top player in the world. I think Wales, Gareth Bale, obviously coming off a MLS Cup win. He's representing LAFC. And he's not playing at the top level anymore. He did just score an equalizer in the MLS Championship, but he's not very fit. This Wales team does not bring much to the table. They have 2 wins in their last 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have anyone in form or anyone playing for top-level clubs. Kiefer Moore, their striker, did just score 2 goals for Tottenham, but those are 2 of his only 3 goals on the season. And Dan James for Fulham, who is supposed to be their next big guy, absolutely blank this season. No goals, no assists. The real surprise team here, I believe, will be Iran. And they almost qualified out of their group stage in 2018. They almost knocked Ronaldo out. And they're top 20 team in the world. And their star player is Taremi from Porto. And he, in 5 Champions League games this year, has 5 goals, 2 assists. They just topped their Champions League group with Atletico, Leverkusen, and Club Brugge. This team's great. It's a good team. They don't lose in qualifying. They probably won't lose very much in the World Cup. They don't allow goals. This team has something to be reckoned with and could be a force. And I'm glad America plays them last. So we play Wales, then England, and then Iran. So I think I'm very happy that we got them last.
Well, I have my Iranian descent here with Iran, and I have my pride in America in the USA. So I've got everything. I've got everything to watch here. So let's move on. Group C.
All right. So Group C consists of Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. We know the story with Argentina. Lionel Messi, greatest player of all time. One thing he does not have is a World Cup. 2014 came so close, reaching the final, winning player of the tournament. 2018 was a bit of a letdown. Had the game of the tournament versus the eventual champions, France. This is a top team. They're in 35 games unbeaten. That's 2 short of the international record.
Mm-hmm.
So they're 3 games away against Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland, becoming the longest ever unbeaten team in football history. This is not like past years where Messi's had to carry this team. This team is quality all around. They got a great goalie now. They got people who can provide for Messi. They got people who can finish from Messi's providing. And Christian Romero from Tottenham is a top player. Tagliafico, now Lyon, top player. This back line is solid. The weakness probably comes in the midfield. They got Rodrigo de Paul from Atletico, and outside of that, there's no other top name. So that when they will eventually lose, possibly in the group in the knockout phase, it'll probably be because they're dominated in the midfield. But they should walk through this group very easily. Should be an absolute cakewalk. Saudi Arabia, they probably won't even show up at the tournament, honestly. Mexico's the team that is a big question mark. If anyone's going to drop points to Saudi Arabia, it's probably going to be them. They tend to play down to their opponents. And if anyone's going to steal points from Argentina, it's probably going to be them because they play up to their opponents. Chucky Lozano from Napoli obviously scored the game winner against Germany in the last World Cup. And
my laptop died.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had to stop the video on my phone, and now I'm recording on my phone.
Okay.
We got two of them. It was wonderful.
I will. Okay.
Okay. Editor Matt back. And at this point right here, my laptop dies. And I'd like to apologize. You'll see a different angle. It's coming from my phone. That was a little bit annoying. I lost my charger. And then later on my phone dies. But it's okay. We'll make with what's due. So
Poland, this is a one-man show with Robert Lewandowski. Should have been Ballon d'Or winner in 2020. Best striker in the world, probably. He's going to have to show up for them. They had a very disappointing Euros. They only got one draw and 2 losses in the Euros. They got to have some other guys step up. And the game against Mexico is going to be the big game. And I think this is a game where they're going to end up drawing, and Mexico's going to do better against the other teams, probably. I think that this Mexico is a more experienced side. They're a better side. And no one outside of Lewandowski and their goalkeeper Szczesny has any big game experience, really.
Cool. All right.
Moving on to Group D. This is one of the more boring groups in the World Cup. You got 3 teams from a group last time at the World Cup: France, Denmark, Australia, Tunisia. Those 4 were all in a group last time. But the first 3 were in a group last time. It was Peru instead of Tunisia last World Cup. So this is kind of a repeat of the last World Cup group-wise. However, France is coming in with a different swagger. They're the reigning champs. They just had a disappointing round of 16 exit. They got this year's Ballon d'Or winner Karim Benzema back. So this is a team that won the World Cup and
knows what they're doing.
They know what they're doing, and they just added a guy who won the Best Player in the World award.
Well, okay.
But the last 2 World Cup champions have been knocked out in the group stage, the following World Cup. I don't think that'll happen this time because I don't think Australia and Tunisia bring anything to the table whatsoever.
Okay.
But I think Denmark will end up topping this group. And last 2 games against France, Denmark has beaten France. They made the semifinals of the Euros 2 summers ago. And that was without Christian Eriksen. Christian Eriksen almost died of a heart attack on the field. And now he's back, and he's just as good as he was before. He's a legitimate star, and he could end up carrying this nation very far in the tournament. Simon Kjaer from AC Milan, one of the top center backs in the world. If he's healthy, that's a question mark right now. If he's healthy against France, I back them to beat France. I back them to top this group, which sets up a fun round of 16 rematch between Argentina and France.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for educating us.
Yeah, no problem.
Especially me, because I have no idea what I'm talking about.
We're about 16, 17 days away, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're getting
exciting stuff.
I mean, I haven't watched soccer as closely as you two over my lifetime, but I do pay attention during the World Cup and the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because there's something special about the whole country coming together around the sport. And I also wanted to make the point, especially with Iran and everything that's going on there now, all the political stuff. You wonder if Iran can somehow play really well in the World Cup, if that offers some sense of healing to the government.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I think historically, like if you think about the U.S. hockey team when they beat the Soviets in the Olympics, that was a big rallying cry when the country was down in spirits. Now that's the United States, not Iran.
Yeah.
But hopefully that offers at least the people of Iran something to rally home around and give them something to really cheer about.
I would love for that to happen. Unfortunately, Iran is not even letting Iranian women into the stadium. That'd be awesome if that happens. And I know that so much can come together through football, and countries can really rally behind a football team.
Yeah.
But Iran, this might only benefit their football with things going on there.
Yeah. Well, moving on. Matt and I are going to go through 2 more conferences in the previews for college basketball. We've already talked about the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big East. This week, we're going to talk about the Big 12 and the Pac-12. I'm going to lead it off with the Big 12. I guess as a note, the Big 12 has the 2 past national championship winners and the Baylor Bears and the Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas is still going to be really good this year. Baylor is going to be up there as well, both coming in with really strong recruiting classes as well as some returning players. One thing to note is Kansas's coach, Bill Self, is suspended for the first 4 games of the season. I don't think that'll affect too much of everything that or how they operate, but there are some key non-conference games early in the season that you would like to have your head coach on the sidelines for. Baylor doesn't have to worry about that. They have Adam Flagler and LJ Cryer back in the mix. Matt, who's the guy that transferred to Illinois?
Matthew Mayer.
Okay. So they're losing a couple key transfers. But Baylor's and Scott Drew is going to have that team firing on all cylinders. Texas is young, and they're going to be pretty good. TCU's returning all 5 starters. In the preseason player of the year, Mike Miles Jr. comes out of Texas Christian University. I think TCU has the chance to really make some waves in the Big 12. But then you have teams like West Virginia, Kansas State that can, in the last few years, have played really good basketball, especially towards the end of the season. So I think Kansas and Baylor are definitely the top of the conference, and we'll see what they can do. At least nationally, they're going to compete and have a chance to make some Final Four runs, national championship runs. And they also have the last 2 national championships in their back pocket, which is good historically speaking. So, Matt, you want to go ahead with Pac-12?
Yeah, this is going to be a very quick breakdown of the Pac-12. Obviously, UCLA, to me, is the best team. They have Jaime Jaquez, Tiger Campbell. And then you move on to Arizona. Arizona has question marks.
Mm-hmm.
They lose, obviously.
Mathurin.
But Dalen, Benedict Mathurin, Christian Coloco, Dalen Terry. 3 tough losses there. Let's see how they bounce back. USC, they took a hard loss yesterday to like I can't even remember who it was. It was a nobody team. Yeah, they lost. I think it was at the buzzer or very close to it. And yeah, and right now because we got to move pretty fast. That's all I have for the Pac-12. And maybe I'll mention it more next episode. But for this episode, I'm going to keep it brief.
Sounds good. All right, now we're going to get into our picks. Predictions for this upcoming week. We are going to start with the college football world with TCU versus Texas. Mr. Matthew Shafty, who are you choosing in this affair?
I'm gonna ride with TCU. I'm gonna ride or die with those Horned Frogs. Max Duggan is balling, even though the defense has its problems. You know what? The offense is doing well enough to beat Texas.
Okay.
Texas is 7-point favorites at home. I'm all about horns down, baby. I'm going for the upset, even though TCU is undefeated. It's still an upset, and I think they're going to walk into Texas. I think they're going to walk out with a W.
All right. I'm going to pick the Horned Frogs as well, and I've said this before. I'm really only choosing them because of their mascot and because I think the Horned Frog is really cool, but also horns down is one of my favorite things to do.
Yep.
And I don't know, it's just really fun.
It's one of the
horns down, baby.
Top traditions in all sports.
Yeah, exactly. So for those really deep reasons, that is why I am choosing the TCU Horned Frogs. To be honest, I don't know much about their team other than they're pretty good.
Yep.
So
undefeated.
Very general, but I'm going to go with the Horned Frogs. Next game is the Seahawks versus the Buccaneers in Munich, Germany, which is cool. Matt, I'm going to assume you're picking the Seahawks only because of Mr. Kenneth Walker, but who are you choosing?
I'm going to choose Tariq Woolen and the Seahawks. Because I believe Kenneth Walker is going to run the ball all over that defense. I'm sorry.
Brady out of his magic. You're not scared of Tom Brady?
And Geno Smith, he's going to throw the ball better than Tom Brady in this game. DK Metcalf's out there catching deep balls along with, Tyler Lockett, Dwayne Eskridge, whoever else they got.
So I'm gonna ride with the underdog train again. I'm gonna agree with Matt again. 2.5-point underdogs in Munich. Tom Brady is an old man. He doesn't want to travel. He hasn't been to Germany before, probably. At least to play football. And the Seahawks are the team that travels the most in the NFL. This is something they're used to.
It's true.
They're used to playing at odd times. And like you said, Geno Smith, I mean, he's been playing like a top 10, top 7 quarterback this season. He's certainly earned himself a contract for the next few years. It's amazing. It's one of the best stories in sports right now. I think the Buccaneers are struggling. I think that team overall, Byron Leftwich has kind of lost his stride. And I think you're going to look to see the Buccaneers slip and the NFC South become wide open.
I'm picking the Buccaneers. I have a very hard time picking against Tom Brady.
Fair.
Now,
Fair.
I know he is not the Tom Brady of old, and a lot of stuff has happened, especially off the field things this year. But last week they had a little comeback win.
Yep.
Tom Brady was very fired up
yeah.
afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
And the one thing I do note of him is when he gets fired up about stuff and when he's really locked in on something, there's almost nobody that can beat him.
No.
And I hate saying that, but at least for the Seahawks' sake, but it's just kind of what it is. And Tom Brady, I think the extra chip on his shoulder, he's an old man flying across the ocean, going to Germany. He wants to make a statement. He doesn't want to embarrass himself in a foreign country, a place he's never played before.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, I'm picking the Buccaneers. I think it's a close game, but I think the Buccaneers win. Next game, Vikings versus the Bills. Matthew?
I'm gonna go Bills. I think the Bills are at home in this one.
Yeah.
I think the Bills have. I think it's going to come down to who has a better defense. Bills home environment, better defense. Going Bills.
Okay.
Alrighty. I'm staying on the underdog train today.
Okay.
I think the Bills are a little rattled. They're very unhealthy. The best defender, Jordan Poyer, is hurt. Josh Allen is questionable for that game with an elbow injury that he suffered on the last drive against the Jets. I think this Vikings team is hot. They're one. Matt talked about him earlier. Got the best receiver in football. Stephon Diggs' former team. So maybe he'll have a little vengeance. But I think I'm going to back the Vikings here.
Okay. If Josh Allen plays and is relatively healthy, I'm going to pick the Bills. I think the Vikings, whoever plays in this game, the Vikings are going to make it a game. It's going to be close. Buffalo's a tough place to play. Not necessarily, obviously the fans are crazy, but the weather up there really is a difference maker. But luckily for the Vikings, they're from Minnesota.
Yep.
And they know what bad weather is like. Obviously they play in a dome, but I think you're more used to it, especially in the division that they're in.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll be too far out of touch. So I guess with all that being said, I'm going to pick the Bills. Home team. They still got a good squad without Josh Allen, so we'll see what happens. And it's Kirk Cousins.
All I know, whatever happens this week, the next week, when Cowboys march up there, we'll give Minnesota a butt whipping. That's all. I know that's coming.
Okay. And this is perfect transition into our last pick prediction of the week, which is in the college basketball world. Gonzaga is playing Michigan State on November 11th, Veterans Day, Armistice Day, on an aircraft carrier. One of the first big games of the year, because the Champions Classic is next Tuesday, correct, Shafty?
Yep.
You participating in that.
Then we got the PK85 over
PK85
Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, that'll be.
We're also participating in that.
So are we.
Let's go X, baby.
Let's go X.
Gonzaga
versus Michigan State. Who are you picking, Matt?
Ooh.
Oh, I really
I really want to pull off the Kirk Herbstreit thing and be like, I don't pick the games that I announce, and I don't want to pick the games that State plays in, but I gotta pick. And I think, although that Tennessee Expedition game, you have it seems like the chips are falling right for Michigan State right now. I'm gonna go with Gonzaga. I think they have more depth. They obviously have the better big man. Timmy's gonna dominate Sissoko. Than Michigan State. Although I think they'll keep up for the first half and then halfway in the second half. I think with about 4 minutes to go, Gonzaga will pull away.
I was going to say that was a very mature answer. I thought we were going Michigan State all the way.
He's bluffing. He's bluffing.
But
he knows what he thinks in his heart.
Okay.
Mark Few's made a career off of winning these games. They always consistently have the hardest out of conference schedule.
Yeah.
And they tend to produce results. I'm not betting against Gonzaga early in the year.
I
the Zags
will pick Gonzaga as well. I think they're a little bit more experienced than Michigan State coming in, especially with the deficiencies down low. Matt, I know you've talked about it. Michigan State's post play is one of the red flags coming into the season. And then you have a guy like Drew Timme, who's played at the highest level, at a very elite level for the last few years. I think he's going to be tough to stop. And
he's never leaving college.
He might not. I mean, so that should be a fun game, though. It's been a while since there's been an aircraft carrier game. And hopefully, weather permitting, it works.
Yeah.
And there's no cancellations and no moisture on the floor to make it unsafe.
Yeah.
That would be a shame. Do you know where the aircraft carrier is?
San Diego.
Oh, beautiful.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, that is our last pick prediction of the week, and I think that is going to conclude episode 9 of the Quick Question Podcast. Thank you guys for joining us today, for being with us. Thank you for Michael for joining us.
Yeah,
he's going to be back.
It was a blast.
He's going to be back next week as well, maybe the week after if he's really on his game.
If I bring in the viewers.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the only reason. But thank you guys for joining us today. Please, for the love of God.
It's all right. We lost Matt.
Well, everybody, thank you guys for joining us on episode 9. Thank you for Michael joining us this week. We lost Matt. His phone died and his computer died during this episode. So, unfortunate, but he says thank you and goodbye as well. But my name is Gabe Ryan.
Michael Daley.
We will see you next week for episode 10.
Yes, sir.